Gary, I am absolutely thrilled to speak to you today. It's so nice to see you. So lovely. Now, I announced 2 days ago that you are going to be headlining Latitude next year. And 2 years ago, you did the very same thing and you knocked it out of the ballpark. You did the first one. Are you now the house band of Latitude?
We would be honoured to be the house band of Latitude. It's one of our favourite festivals. We played the very first one, as you say. And then a few years ago, we played and it was just so much fun. And Ed Sheeran joined us on stage, and it was just a great night.
I tell you what, right, because I interviewed you backstage, you were just about to go on. And I hadn't seen you live before. And that gig, Gary, I have honestly, after seeing it, I went on about it for about 6 months. Literally. I had a spiritual experience in the field watching you guys. There was something so magical in your performance. What was it about? What did you do that night?
I have no idea. I should probably watch that tape back again and find out what it was. But I don't know. I'm really glad, really glad you had a great time at the gig. That's fantastic to hear. I remember just enjoying the whole show so much all the way through. I think when you feel that a crowd is with you from the first second of a gig, it does kind of compound through the whole show. It just gets better and better and better usually. And that was definitely one of those nights. And Latitude just has this great atmosphere about it anyway. You know, it's sort of infused over everything.
I agree. It's my favourite festival in the UK. I think there's something magical in the air there. I think, you know, it's got the forests, it's got the lake, and it's just always got the best bands, you know. But I think for me, you know, there was something about your performance where I want to talk to you about this because you were so present in that moment. And there was a moment on that gig where you just stood there and looked at the crowd and nodded and took in the energy. What does that feel like?
You know, I think I was just trying to not forget it. You know, I think when you go to a gig or you play a gig, and you know you've got everybody everywhere has a million things going around in their head, and sometimes it's hard to kind of feel the ground underneath your feet. And I think I like to take a moment to do that in every show where possible. And yeah, that one was easy. I already felt grounded. I already felt like it was something that I was there for, and I'll never forget. You know, and yeah, I do remember that moment. I mean, because that was what it was meant for. It was meant for me to remember that moment. I didn't want the whole gig to go by and then get to the end of it and go, which has happened many times. And I get to the end of it and go, what, it's over? Yeah. We have to leave the stage.
Yeah.
How did that happen? You know, that with that one, I feel like there's moments throughout the whole show that mark the show for me forever.
Yeah. It really did, from an audience point of view as well. It was something really profound to just be there in that moment with you. I do have a bone to pick with you.
Oh, okay.
So when I was interviewing
it's not all good news.
It's okay. Not all good news, you know. Sometimes you've let me down, and on this particular experience, you let me down. 2 years ago, there was a surprise happening on the stage at Latitude.
Yes, you asked me
I did,
on air.
Right?
Yeah.
It wasn't.
And I said,
right?
I think I lied to you.
You literally not only lied, I knew Ed Sheeran, right? Because I just knew. I intuited that Ed Sheeran was hanging out. It's geography.
You were right.
You know,
you were
it's
right
geography,
too.
it's friendship, and wherever there's a gig and there's a moment of surprise that could happen, he'll appear because that's what he does, right? And I said, Gary, is there any surprises? And you didn't even say it. Well, I've got a few on me head. You know, you could have said that. You didn't say anything. You just left it. You wouldn't tell me.
Well, it wasn't that I wouldn't tell you, Jayne. It was that I wasn't going to say it to anybody, because I was just so. We were trying to keep it secret, and it's tricky.
It was the worst.
It's tricky to do.
It was a very badly kept secret.
I didn't. Well, I didn't realize everybody knew. That's one of those things where you've been walking around with a bit of spinach in your teeth all day, and like nobody said to you. But no, it was so much fun. Well, I mean, it's always so much fun to play with Ed. But when he came on stage, it was the whole place went absolutely bananas.
Didn't it? I mean, it really. There's something about Ed Sheeran and his energy. He comes on like a puppy. I mean, you guys were extraordinary. Then he comes on and it just goes boom like that.
Lifts off. Yeah.
I wish he could have seen that. I was actually doing it with my arms and everything. You've really missed a treat not being able to see me today. I got made up for the experience and everything. I'm so annoyed. But anyway, let's continue. You are going back to Latitude because you do have this brilliant new album out, The Forest is the Path. Congratulations, firstly, on it going into number one straight away. I mean, but it's a really amazing piece of work. How did it feel to make it? Because there's just the three of you now, right?
Yeah, it's the three of us, and it's a first. We started. There's a sort of a symmetry to the whole thing, I guess. You know, we started as a three-piece back in 1994, and we're a three-piece again. But it's the first album we've made as a three-piece in a long, long time. And yeah, we made it with Fraser T. Smith, who is just one of the most gorgeous human beings you'll ever meet. I don't know if you've met him before, but he's just a heart with arms and legs. It was a wonderful experience. It was a strangled route to get to him, but by the time we did, we'd been through a difficult time making the record, in the context of it's music and we're having fun doing it as well. But it wasn't the easiest record up to that point, and then we met Fraser and it just all clicked into place.
I've heard you talking about that before, and how he was instrumental to the success of this album. Yeah. And it's really interesting because we get the songs through. There was an embargo on the first single, which is The Beginning. That was the first single, right? Am I right in that?
You're right.
Yeah. So we had that, and everybody knows I'm a big Snow Patrol fan, and the head of music said, "Listen, I've got a treat for you, and it's a new song." And I put on the headphones and I just stood here in the office and locked out all of the rest of the noise, and I could just hear this song. And you know what? There's something about you as a lyricist. When I hear your lyrics, and specifically the lyrics of that song, I just really took them in. I was like, it's like I'm not the only person in the world who really struggles to have relationships, and it makes me feel not alone. And sometimes I feel a bit like a freak because of that, and then I hear your lyrics and it's like, oh,
yeah. I'm glad that because I think so many people are so certainly people I've talked to and not so great at relationships like myself. There's definitely an army of us.
And I think we're not talked about enough. And I think we should start normalizing it. Because I think they are the hardest thing that human beings have to experience. If we want to have authentic, real, beautiful relationships, we have to drop down our guard. And that is the hardest thing we can do, right?
Absolutely. It's, you are... we are all, individuals, collections of atoms that have coalesced into an individual, and it's hard to develop a deep relationship sometimes with another individual, because everybody has a different way of looking at the world, and I struggle sometimes to fully elaborate on mine. But in lyrics, when I'm writing, I feel like I can get there sometimes, and it's just not in life, not in conversation, not in relationship. It's hard. It's harder.
That was what I wanted to ask you, because within your lyric writing, you are so open. You know, how do you manage to be that open with your lyrics? Is it because it's just you?
Yeah, I suppose the most sort of individual pursuit, like making music, is a collective. For us, it's always a collective experience. There's always a lot of collaboration and experimentation, and I feel part of something bigger, and I feel stronger in that relationship, much stronger. And Johnny and Nathan are two of the most just extraordinary people I've ever known, and I love them bits, and it's amazing making music with them. But then when it gets to the lyrics, I feel like that's where I kind of need to say what's in my heart, or else what is the point of writing anything down? You know, like I mean, I write a lot of like bad lyrics. I mean, people might think that all my lyrics are bad, and that's okay too. But there's to get to the ones that I think are passable. There's an awful lot of bad ones too. But yeah, I suppose it is the most individual pursuit that I do, because most of everything else is collective. So when it gets down to that, it feels like there is I wouldn't go so far as to say a responsibility, but there's certainly an inclination to talk about what's in me as a person, rather than perhaps in in a more collective idea, which the music is transmitting, I hope.
But that is pure. That is being a proper artist, because artists are there to sort of make sense of the world for us, so we can, they put it into either words or pictures, so we can sort of like make sense of the world for ourselves, because we can't do it. And I think that's what you do with your, I told you how I feel when I listened to the beginning,
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that, and I'm glad that happens. But it happens for me with lots of different artists. I mean, I just need to put on Bon Iver and I'm transported, and
exactly,
it feels like I'm connected. I feel connected to something through him.
Exactly.
And many other artists, but he's always the first one that I think of is always first to mind. But yeah.
So you as a band, right? You guys as a band, it took you like 10 years to break through, didn't it? It took you a long time. And, it was a long old, you were about to give up, and then you did Run, and it was like, boom, and it went off the tracks. But I wanted to ask you what it was like when it did finally take off. What was how did you actually cope with it?
Oh, not well.
Why? What happened?
I think just I mean, I pretty much documented what happened in the previous album, Wildness, which is my alcoholism and the rest.
Congratulations on that, by the way. I'm one of us as well, so that's my hand up.
got out, chewed our way out of that bear trap. It's I think what happened was, 10 years of sort of playing small venues and a lot of fun, but like maybe playing to 20 people. And then suddenly it within a year of Final Straw coming out, we were playing, kind of at Wembley Arena sized places.
Crazy.
Which was bonkers after 10 years of not. So we didn't really know what we were doing. Well, I mean, I'll be completely honest, I still don't know what I'm doing, but we definitely didn't know what we were doing then. And so it was trying to adapt to the small gigs for 20 people that are suddenly now 10,000 people, and it feels like it happened overnight. And we weren't playing. There's a big difference between playing a gig and playing a show.
Yes.
Which we all learned when we went on tour with U2. U2 were kind of our it was like going to
I love
college
that.
for.
I love that you've just said that sentence. That's literally one of the best. That's one of the best sort of like, yeah, we went on tour with U2. I mean, it's just like one of the best sentences I've ever heard. What was that like as an experience?
Yeah, I read it in an interview, and Bono talked about Final Straw as an album that he loved, and I just could it blew my mind. And then literally a couple of weeks or maybe even less than that later, we get a call saying they wanted us to go on the Vertigo tour with them. They do a beautiful thing, which we've kind of taken an awful lot of what they've done and put it into our sort of touring apparatus, because they do it right. They do everything right. Everybody on their tour, from management, crew, catering, everybody that works on it is lovely. Every single person was kind to us. Everybody welcomed us with open arms. It was a really, really lovely tour to be on. And if I didn't mention the band, of course, the band too. Everybody was so lovely. So it sort of showed us, even the biggest band in the world, they treat everybody. Everybody's cool. Everybody's
really
lovely.
Beautiful.
So that is just like, that's what we need to do. That is what we dedicate our lives to. Everybody's awesome in the setup, and they are in ours. But watching them every night, and we toured on the 360 tour as well. Every single time we played with U2, it might have been 50 or so shows. I watched every single minute of every gig, and like literally was taking notes.
I mean, they are U2. I mean, they're the one band that if I do not see before I die, I will really have to come back to sort of like re-experience them in the next life, because there's something about them. They're so good. I think he's the only person, Bono, that I met him years ago, but I think if I met him now, I think I've got much more awareness. I think I'd actually curtsy, because it's like, it's like the king or something to me. He's just so brilliant. The very first day, just to sort of give people a sort of an impression of what it's like to go on. So we're the very first day on tour, on the Vertigo tour, where my knees are knocking together. Yeah.
And we walk into catering, and they're all sitting there, all four of them, and they're around a laptop. And it's our understanding afterwards that they were looking through the lighting design, like making sure everything was right. So they're over every detail. That's another thing that we took from them. Basically, we have amazing people, and there's plenty of delegation, but we know what's going on everywhere, in the tour, and the ticket prices, all the things, so we walked in and we sat down, and we're kind of like, okay, so I guess we're on tour with U2, and there they are over there, and one by one they broke off from their meeting, one by one, to come over and sit with us and welcome us to the tour. I mean, it might seem like that's a small gesture. It's a massive gesture. They're in the middle of a meeting.
Yeah,
they don't have to. They don't have to go.
Yeah,
they're U2. First of all,
yeah,
they're in the middle of a meeting, and they all break off individually to welcome us. Very like with like, we're so happy you're here. We're delighted. We love the record. And we're all like, oh, okay. I don't know what to say. It's Larry Mullen Jr. sitting down for lunch with us, and everybody did, and then that was like that for the whole tour. So that you're asking about what it was like that sort of first year. That was sort of within the first year of when we first
that is a lot to deal with.
Success. So then the venues getting bigger, the festival slots, they're getting higher in the bill, and the we're touring with U2, and we didn't really know how to do a show, and it was being with U2 that taught us that there's a difference, that you don't just walk on in the clothes that you're in the pub in last night. You actually think about details. It's about details, and it's about trying to transmit. I mean, I suppose the most important thing is trying to transmit what's in here to the person in the back row, not just talking to the front row, which is important to do too, of course, but like making sure everybody. Bono has this way of transmitting to the whole stadium.
Yeah.
Somehow it just feels like everybody and I watched in lots of different places in every night in a different place around the stadium, and even when I was standing at the very back in the very top tier, it felt like he was singing it directly to me. So it's that's not something that's something that's more probably instinctual, but it is something over time that you can if you put your mind to it, you can try at least to make sure that everybody in the whole room feels what you're feeling, and I think that's important because everyone has paid money to come and see you play, and you want everybody to have a great time.
The thing I wanted to ask as well, because you went so big, chasing cars. At the minute it's got 1.4 billion streams on on Spotify. It's craziness, So, firstly, what do you think what is it? Was the fantasy like the reality? That the fantasy in your head that you had of making it that big, what was it like versus the reality?
Yeah, it was. In some ways it was better. In some ways, obviously, it doesn't live up to when you're, again, this is, I don't know, talked about this on the last record, but it was kind of about mental health and stuff. But, when you're in a hotel room, curled up in a ball on the floor, having a panic attack, obviously things don't feel great then, but the actual, experience of playing, headlining shows all over the world, which we still do, and playing to thousands of people, and you're having hearing your songs sung back to you full volume.
Must be amazing.
It's the most extraordinary experience, and it's one that it has we've never ever taken for granted. And I'll always the bits where maybe apart from chasing cars, that kind of just let the crowd sing, but usually I'm singing the first line of something to not take it for granted, what I mean, that the crowd are going to sing it, and very often they'll take over, and in those moments you think, I wrote this song in Run, for example, I wrote in my in my bedroom in the house where we didn't have any heating, and now this is a song sung by thousands of people every night, and it feels like a collective communal experience, which obviously the word concert means to be in agreement, to be in to be in lockstep with one another, and that is what a great concert makes it feel like. Everybody doesn't matter where everybody's from or what's going on in our minds, and I mean this as a punter as well as somebody that on the stage, everybody's singing the same song at the same time. You feel like you're part of something, and that is amazing.
We're becoming one again. That's what I think what these big experiences do for us. So you're still sober, right?
Yes. Yeah.
How long has it been now?
It was 8 years in June.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I got
Thank
16.
16. Well, that's your twice as far as me.
I'm like
that's
twice
amazing,
as grown
amazing.
up. I know, twice as grown up. I'm sort of I see myself as an adolescent now. Sort of like I'm actually a 16-year-old. I sort of feel like that. Do you feel? Did it change you as well? Because it's a very different experience, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. Yeah, the first year I definitely struggled mightily and couldn't be anywhere close to a pub. I don't know how you felt in the first year.
Oh, horrific. I mean, I had to, every pub looked like the Hansel and Gretel house that I had to, that I wanted to eat. Do you know what I mean?
You were just smelling gingerbread in the air.
Oh, it looks so, especially at Christmas, it looks so pretty. I just want to go in.
Yeah, it's funny, but Jackknife Lee, who's been our producer for 20 years, and one of the great humans and musicians and producers in the world, he said he's he was sober. He's probably about the same amount of time as you. I think he was 7 or 8 years before me, and he said, "Give me a shout after about 18. After about what did he say? No, about between 9 months and a year.
Yeah.
Give me a shout. There will be something that happens that and you'll probably need to call someone. Just call me." And he was right, because you think that, well, that's me. I've done the hard work. I've given up.
That's it.
And then all
all
the demons that you have been drowning in alcohol decide, no, hang on a minute.
Hello, I'm here.
Yeah. And they all roar up at you in some kind of Tim Burton kind of graveyard scene, and it's it is a challenging moment, and he was right, and it was good to have friends, to sort of lean on. And so, but I don't know if you were in AA or anything.
I'm in AA. I was in AA.
I didn't do that, but
for me, it was essential, because, I have to be able to talk to people when I am, the demons are roaring, and they're still raw. I've still got the same head. That's what happens. It's just not as loud. I mean, sometimes it is. I'm still crazy, but that's it.
I'm certainly crazy. I had some very, very awesome friends. One of my friends, Gabrielle, kind of saved my life many times. It's just been some, and Johnny and Nathan have been incredible as well, because I think it's and very close friends in Northern Ireland. My oldest friend, Davey Matchett, who I run a record label with as well, as these people that know you really well. I've seen you at your worst.
Yep.
Know what that looks like. Yep. They still love you.
That's it. That's the bit. That's the bit.
And it's and you can call them, and obviously I'm available to be called as well. I'm not saying it's a one-way street, but when you get into that kind of place in an evening where you're like, oh no, I don't feel good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's 8 years on, and it feels, I don't know how 16 years on feels like, but 8 years on feels different to me. It feels like I don't really think about it anymore.
Yeah, very much so. Same. But that's what they say. You never get into a relationship in the first few. I would say the first 10.
Right.
Don't take my advice. Don't take my advice.
Well, I'm actually taking it accidentally.
Me too, accidentally as well. It's like that thing where it's like, oh my God, I'd experienced this and I was like, whoa, that was like, okay, I'm still crazy, right? Fine, and you work on yourself again, and it's like, it's the same sort of thing. What was the gig?
Well, it's like the way I think about it is, it's like the Golden Gate Bridge, or some bridge that they never finish painting. You know what I mean? That's me. I'm a work in progress forever.
But that is what we are. That is the whole thing. I think when I first got sober, I thought, right, I'll get to a point and it'll be done, and it's not, because you just keep going, because it's the evolution of dropping the guard a little bit more and becoming more of yourself every single day, and just it's learning. It's what we are here for, right?
That's absolutely, I feel that too. Every day trying to learn something new, and every day my mantra when I wake up is, I know nothing, please let the world teach me something.
I love that. That is amazing. Yeah, that is amazing, because that is it. I know nothing.
There's every day that I go, oh, right, okay, well, I guess that changes everything. So, so if you're humbled in that way every day, or if you allow yourself at least the possibility to be humbled, then you realize that after a while, it's like, there are 8 billion people on planet Earth, and they all know something you don't, even if it's just their perspective. I would say everybody knows more than one thing that I know. Yeah. I would say that everybody knows a lot more than, but the math starts to get humbling after a while. But let's just leave it at 8 billion things you don't know. Now add up all the things I do know.
Yeah.
And it's nowhere close to 8 billion. It is dwarfed by that 8 billion things I don't know. So the way I see it is I'm closer to knowing nothing. So I pretty much just settle on that rather than trying to think that I understand anything in particular, because I like to be open to the idea that
Yes.
everything is everything is up for grabs. Everything is just, it's like, you know, when you're little and you just say the sky's blue and you go, why is the sky blue? Well, the sky's blue because it's blue. And then you realize when you're older that the sky isn't blue. Every single other piece of information goes, what? Hang on a minute. What? It's just because we see blue easier than all the other colors that.
I did
What?
not know that. I didn't know
What?
that.
So it just, when it feels like any single piece of like solid information is possibly, you know, uh, you know uh, something that you have wrong, something that I have wrong. I don't put it on anybody else. I never ever want to, like, don't, like, you know, and one of my favorite lyrics of all time is actually an Oasis lyric.
What is it?
It is, don't put your life in the hands of a rock and roll band. So don't listen to a word I say.
I love it. I love it. That's such a clever lyric. So clever. Now, Gary, you have been with me quite a long time and I've thoroughly enjoyed it, but I am going to have to let you go at some point.
Yeah, of course.
But
we've talked longer than the show, have we?
No, we haven't. I could literally talk. I could carry on. But one of the things I really need to say to you, and I don't want to embarrass you by this, but after seeing the gig, that the Latitude gig, I was calling you my future ex-husband for about 6 months. And I just need you to know that. And I'd like to apologise to you in person for actually, you know, saying that a lot and actually like wanging on about the gig for at least 6 months. And so I just had to hold my hands up and say that to you.
Well,
I like how dark it is. You know, you're my future ex-husband.
Yes.
It's like,
yes.
And you know, it's got everything in it, hasn't it? It's got.
It has the future is the future is written, which goes against what Joe Strummer said.
I can even say the album. You know, it's gonna be brilliant. So basically, I do have to end. I do have to end with you. I did want to ask you because, you know, can you explain to me the longevity of Chasing Cars? Why do you think it has that?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's simplicity. You know, when it was written in a kind of a fever dream. There was 9 other songs written at the same time within 2 hours. I was just writing song after song, and actually 5 of the songs I wrote that night, Garrett was myself and Jackknife, and he was recording me just like just idea after idea, and 5 of them actually ended up being 5 songs on Eyes Open. So that night was a very productive night. So there was no, and I mean this, I don't mean to denigrate Chasing Cars in any way, because I do love it so much, but
do you not get sick of singing it?
No, because the crowd, this is another thing, that the crowd, when the crowd takes over, it's different every night. Yes. And it just is a new experience every night. It feels renewed, reborn.
It never gets like, you know, you never get sick of that song. It's weird.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure some people are very sick of it, but it's yeah. Yeah. So I wasn't really thinking in that part of the brain, the judgment part of the brain. It was just, I was just sort of like idea after idea, and then we listened back the next day. We had a few bottles of wine as well, so a little bit of a fuzzy head listening back. And that Chasing Cars, it had the chorus and it had the lyrics of the chorus already, but nothing really else. And both of us went, "Oh, hang on a minute, that's something," because it immediately like felt like this was elevated above everything else. The other 10 songs, it sort of pushed itself upwards, you know, into the, I don't know, whatever, into the air.
Oh yeah, you can hear it straight away. You must have
and
heard
everybody
it.
that we played it to, it felt like they were all having, that's the song. And we hadn't really had that before, maybe with Run, where beforehand people were saying, before it even came out, this is the one. So obviously, we already spoken about the 10 years build up or whatever that we had. You don't take anything for granted. You don't think like, because even people that we trust have told us this is a big song. You don't think this is going to be a big song. Yeah. You're still waiting for the tap on the shoulder to say you're not supposed to be here. So it still took us massively by surprise. But I think, and I have been asked a question before and tried to answer it, and I'm still bad at it, obviously, because I've just waffled on. But I think it is the simplicity of the song. I think it's just what is it really about? It's about it's a pure love song. It's one of the very few pure love songs that we've written, where you are just present with somebody in a moment, and I think that maybe appeals to people. We've never analyzed it too much. We've never tried to write in that way again, because trying to chase something like that,
it'd be like chasing cars, wouldn't it, Gary?
It could be like chasing cars. And there we go, there's the end of the show. Brilliant. Thanks very much. Please tip your waitress.
I'm always good at the endings. So I want to end this interview how we started it, because you're here to talk about Latitude. You are headlining Latitude, which I'm absolutely thrilled about next year again. And I do want to ask you, because it's going to be all the new album and stuff, please will you play Shut Your Eyes?
Yes.
You will?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, that's good. When I hear that, I'll think it's just for me.
Okay. Right. There we go.
Yeah. So that's what I will interpret that as. But Gary, thank you so much for speaking to us today. It has been an absolute joy and a pleasure, and I cannot wait to see you at Latitude next year. And plus, amazing. You were very good at Coco as well. That must have been,
thank you. We're Coco
really
as well, right?
Good.
Yes. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Yeah. Thank you so much.